1, 2, 3, 4.
Hi, my name is Adam Mueller. I'm the supervisor of solid waste disposal at the City of Kingston, and I'm here to tell you more about the cart-based waste collection.
Hello all, welcome back to another edition of Tell Me More, the podcast that sorts its waste and uses the city's waste lookup tool when we're unsure what goes where. I'm your host, Adam Hume, and today we are dumpster diving into the world of solid waste, or as most of us know it, garbage, recycling, and the very smelly stuff in the green bin. Without going overboard, I don't think it's out of order to say solid waste collection is one of the most vital things the city does. Solid waste, garbage, whatever. When it's not dealt with properly, it's a huge risk to human health. One does not need to look hard at history to see the value of good waste management and what it does to a community. Over the last few years, there's been lots happening in the world of solid waste, and particularly recycling. Here in Kingston, it was recently announced that we'll be shifting to a cart-based waste collection system in the near future, but that's really just the start. So I'm excited today to welcome Adam to speak with us about what's changing, what we know, and equally important, what we don't know yet. Welcome to the podcast, Adam.
Thanks very much for having me.
All right, so I moved to Kingston a few years ago, and I was a little surprised to see that the city was still picking up trash the old-fashioned way. You know, where a person hops off a truck, grabs the bags in the bin, tosses them in before hopping back on, and off to the next. I've had the opportunity to live in a couple of places across Canada over the last decade, and most or all of them had cart-based waste collection. So why is Kingston only moving to this system now when it seems like it's so common everywhere else? Or is that just the flawed perception that I have?
A number of reasons. Most small municipalities, the ones you don't hear a lot about, are still going to be on a fully manual or semi-automated waste collection system, especially outside of Ontario at this point. A lot of the larger municipalities have made the shift to cart-based because it makes it easier for them to service both single-family homes, multi-residential properties, and then big apartment buildings. And Kingston, we've looked at this in the past. We've tried to make this an option, but what's really prevented us from doing that was our recycling collection.
So I just want to clarify, when you say automated, that's not robots, that's like the cart base, that's a truck driving up and picking it up?
Yeah, so the automated carts, generally what will happen is we're going to have guys driving down the road. They actually have a joystick system inside the truck that will maneuver an arm to pick up the cart from curbside and dump it. There will be some need for a semi-automated system where somebody still gets out of the truck and rolls that cart up to one of the trucks. But for majority of it, it's all going to be kind of joystick like a video game.
Right. Okay, cool. The semi-automated stuff, I'm wondering, so I'm thinking about the challenges of bringing a system like that to Kingston. Thinking about narrow streets that we have downtown jumps to mind. Would that be one of the challenges we're facing, or is that where the semi-automated might come in?
That is where the semi-automated might come in. And even potentially we might still have to do some areas manually, just depending on the size and the availability of equipment to actually collect that. And it's not just downtown. Some of the newer development areas are quite tight. There's a lot of on-street parking, and it might not be possible to use a fully automated collection system, but people will still get the benefit of the carts for setting out their waste.
Oh, okay. So whether or not the truck is coming and picking it up with the arm, you're still getting the new collection carts.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. So what's the timeline for this? What are we looking at? And would the city switch at once, or would it be kind of a phased switch over?
So it's going to be a phased approach. If the city were to replace all of the vehicles and purchase all the carts at once, it would be a massive capital outlay, which we don't have the budget for right now. So additionally, what we're doing is we're slowly replacing our fleet of vehicles. Right now, they're quite aged. They're past what we would normally want to replace them at. So we're taking the opportunity over the next 5 to 6 years to slowly replace our fleet to allow us to have the cart-based collection. And this does require new vehicles in addition to all the new collection equipment. And we might even be testing out some electric garbage trucks just to see if we can continue to use that as part of our fleet.
I'd imagine, too, there's a lot of things like staff training, new processes that you have to bring on to make this whole system work, or...
That's correct. So one of the big things is most people don't know how to use a lot of this automated collection equipment. It is new. It is something that's quickly changing. And to switch to that joystick based, it's going to change that physical demand for those drivers, though they won't be getting on and off the truck, and there's going to be a reduced risk of injuries from that. We know that some areas do have carpal tunnel issues with the new, so we have to make sure that we're doing that safely and not putting risk to our drivers for something it seems insignificant, but it is something we have to consider.
The carpal tunnel is serious, so bunch of reasons why we would do a phased rollout of this then that are making sense to me at least. And I know we're still in the midst of some public engagement on this project. Throughout October, we took in questions from the public through our public engagement platform, Get Involved Kingston. Is the public engagement phase over, or is there more to come on this?
We still have a couple more steps in the public engagement. Through the middle of December, we're going to be hosting a number of open houses where people can come and see some of the different sample carts that we have, use them, move them around, see the different mechanisms that we have for potentially locking this, just so that people can provide us feedback on what size they think they would need for their household. Those engagements are going to be throughout the city. They start on Friday, November the 24th, and I believe they run until December the 6th. These events are going to be open to all for 2 to 3 hours. There is one during the day at Artillery Park. So if you get on the Get Involved Kingston website, you can check those out. Following that, as everybody gets to see the carts and everybody's asked their questions, we will be going back out in the new year, asking people what their preferences are on cart sizes, on collection frequencies, on things like different adjustments we can make to the program related to large item pickups, potentially extra garbage. We need to get that information so we can take it back to council in late Q1 or early Q2.
Right. I guess you guys have a pretty good understanding of the system as a whole, but it's those little neighborhood level, my street has this weird corner thing. So there's going to be this extra challenge that you really benefit from having the public's eyes on the ground, bringing that forward, eh?
Very much so. So we know how the system's going to work. We don't know the intricacies of the city of Kingston and how it's going to work here.
Right. Earlier we talked briefly about the timing of the switch and how much of it's tied to our vehicle switchover and some other changes that are happening there. I was wondering if we could talk a bit about the recycling changes that are coming to Ontario and what we know and whether they're going to affect, how they're going to affect us, or what we know about how they might affect us.
Absolutely. So number of things are happening in the recycling world that most people might not be aware of. So in 2021, the province of Ontario has decided that municipalities are no longer going to be responsible for recycling.
Really? Like pickup, disposal, the whole thing?
Pickup, management, disposal, and specifically and importantly, the financial burden associated with recycling. Though we do make some money back from the recyclable materials, it is not a positive net for that program. So the producers, so people like Coke, Pepsi, Nestle, that are actually making those recyclables are now going to be both physically and financially responsible for that program. And that's rolling out over the province for 3 years. So it started in July 1st of 2023 with places like the City of Toronto and Sault Ste. Marie and I believe Ottawa transitioning. Now, they haven't seen any changes because they've just continued to operate as normal and get paid for it. But when the City of Kingston transitions in July 1st, 2025, we are completely walking away from the system. So the producers are going to have to start collecting that material. They are going to have to start processing that material, and the city's essentially going to walk away. No changes will be seen at the residence until at least January of 2026, because they have to maintain our system until that time. And then we don't know what that's going to look like at that point. But the city will no longer be responsible for recycling come July 1st of 2025.
So we got just about 2 years out from kind of a significant change that we don't totally know what it's going to look like, but it's going to happen province-wide. Do you think we would end up with like a Nestle branded recycling truck driving around town, or?
No, most likely it's going to be some of the companies that we've been working with. So our current recycling contractor, some of the ones like Waste Management and Waste Connections that are in the city will probably try to bid on the collection of that material.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. And then the companies would probably have their own sort facility or something.
Yeah, so that's all going to be managed by a provincial organization. It's called Circular Materials Ontario.
Okay.
So it is essentially all the producers have given this company the ability to manage this on their behalf.
Right.
So they'll be the ones that are going to be dealing with all the contracts associated with recycling shifts.
Okay. So what does the recycling piece have to do with the timing of the solid waste bin changeover?
Yeah, this is where it gets fun. So our current recycling center actually has 4 different recycling streams, even though you only put 2 boxes to the curb.
Right.
So the guys at the curb are separating their cardboard from all the paper products, and they're separating glass from all of the containers. And they drop them off separately at the recycling center. So that's why we weren't able to make a transition to a cart-based program for recycling, because our recycling center collects 4 different streams.
So you'd be looking at 4 carts?
4 carts.
Jeez.
It's going to be a struggle enough for some people to find locations for 2 carts.
Yeah.
To have 6 carts would not have been a viable option.
No.
So taking that out of the system, the fact that we're no longer going to be dealing with that material, we can focus on just the garbage and green bin,
Right.
which is allowing us to make that transition in our fleet.
Right. Okay. So it's sort of like a domino effect. We need to have the trucks that are capable to pick up everything else, but if we're going to commit to the kind of trucks that are going to do that, we really want like a bin system all around, but we're not going to do that if we're going to require 6 carts because of our current recycling setup. But no.
That's correct. And we didn't want to invest the close to $10 million it would have cost to transition our facility, knowing that we were going to be not in charge of that material anymore.
No, that makes a lot of sense, actually. It's a lot that I didn't know was going on behind the scenes, but it's very exciting. So it sounds like there's some big things brewing here. I'm going to go out on a bit of a limb and say we'll probably have you back to talk about some of these things when we know a bit more. But until then, thank you for joining us. And I'll give you the last word. Is there anything else you want to add on this? Anything I haven't brought up?
I would just say make sure that you're coming out and engaging with us. Yeah. Give us the information that we need to make sure that this program is going to work for you. If we don't, then you might end up with a cart that doesn't fit through a door or something that we might not be aware of. We really need your help on this.
Well, folks, there it is. There's really no business like solid waste business. If you'd like to keep up with what's changing, head to Get Involved Kingston and look for the cart-based collection project. There you can read the questions that have been asked and answered, and you can also sign up to receive project updates and keep up to date with the rollout of the new carts. And if it's more city podcasts that you seek, check out our backlog. We've got 3 seasons of content delving into how the city works. If you have a question you'd like answered or something you'd like us to tell you more about, fire us an email at podcasts@cityofkingston.ca. Stay well, everyone.